Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can see me yet. We've had a bit of a day today because Susie has been rendered kind of unable to function because she's very, very sick. I'm trying to get this stream to work correctly. I have no idea if it's working. I have no idea if it's something. I think because, oh, wait a minute. Told me that I'm not live. Okay, whatever. But I'm just trying to say that I think that because I'm having to use the Disobedient Media account, it's not the same link as normal. So I'm just going to go and try and catch up with that. And also, I do know that my upload speed is really crap with my internet that I'm on, so that may not be normal. So 1 second. So I'm going to go visit the Disobedient Media channel so I can get the right link, because I know that we have had an issue with that as far as, okay, sorry, I'm just thinking as I'm speaking. So basically right now, oh great, I see that we've got the Eric Schmidt video up instead of the normal Decipher You image. So sorry, and I'm not even like talking correctly, I'm just like thinking as I'm speaking, so don't mind me. Okay. I'm trying to link into Discord the right link for people, so I'm hoping that David and Fly and Croc2 will be able to get that link into the Decipher You live stream link, because yeah, that live stream on Decipher You is not going to happen on Susie's channel. And again, if you just got here, the reason for that is because Susie's sick and so she can't make it. And so basically, I'm running this on the Disobedient Media channel. She tried to help me get into her account, but Google is an asshole as usual. And I guess it's fitting that Eric Schmidt is on the cover photo of this stream, but basically Google won't let me use her account. So I had to, at the last minute, use my own account. So yeah, no, and David just sent me the link. And yes, the one with Eric Schmidt on it is the correct Decipher You link for this evening. I'm so sorry about all of this confusion. This is not our usual way to go about the beginning of Decipher You. I haven't even introduced myself properly. I've just been trying to get this thing going. So yeah, if you've just joined us, I'm Elizabeth Buss. I'm editor-in-chief of Disobedient Media, and usually I am joined by the amazing Susie Dawson, who is an activist, a journalist, and the current president of the Internet Party of New Zealand, but she is unable to be with us this evening, so I will be trying to hold this stream solo. I've never hosted the stream before, so we'll see how this goes. It'll be kind of on the fly. And oh yeah, okay, I see somebody saying that I should need to increase my microphone, so I will do that right this second. Sorry. This is going to be a very, very on the fly stream this evening. 1 second. Okay. So tell me if that's louder. That should be a lot louder. I have the volume on that microphone all the way up. So apologies if I now blasted your eardrums. So yeah, so I do know that we're up to document 140 in the current batch of the Snowden documents that we're looking at, the SID Today documents. So I will get started with that in just a minute if the volume right now is okay. Okay, I see that it's good. That's awesome. So let me see. Yeah, and if you guys, because I'm unable to get ready for this today the way that I usually do, you know, we're only about 11 minutes over time, which is basically good for us, but I haven't been able to like share this Disobedient Media link anywhere on social media. I haven't tweeted it. I haven't put it on Facebook or anything. So if you guys that have figured out this confusion and found your way to this link instead of the link on Susie's channel, if you could please tweet this link so that people know where to go if they are looking for us. I know that we will have much fewer people today because of all of this confusion, and that's totally understandable and fine. But to help out with that as I get started, if you could please, yeah, go and share this either on Facebook, on Twitter, or wherever you share your social media. So with all of that said, I'm going to go and open up the documents starting at document 140. And we will just get started. And I thank you so much for joining us despite all the confusion. I really appreciate it. So it looks like number 40 is titled MGQ in Iraq Theater TDY on April 3rd, 2005. And I am going to miss Susie being here so much because, she always has such good insight into these documents and to the meaning of them, especially in the text sense of things. So we will definitely be missing Susie's analysis on this. I hope that she listens to this stream once she's feeling better, and maybe if she has thoughts that I don't like, if she has insights that I don't see in these documents, I'm sure she will add those to her findings as well when she does the write-up. So I'm going to just share screen one moment. Always takes me a minute to get share screen sorted. So here we go. So the first one is titled MGQ, Iraq Theater, TDY, 3rd of April, 2005. And it's from blank at the Iraq Issue Management Team. And it says, sunrise over Baghdad 8 months ago. If you had told me that I'd be standing on the porch of Saddam's Palace, witnessing a beautiful April 1st sunrise over Baghdad, I would have thought that you'd be pulling a world-class April Fool's Day prank on me. But at 7:05 this morning, that's exactly where I found myself. The sky was slightly hazy, the temperature was in the low 60s, and the breeze was almost chilly. And yet, if it hadn't been for the pair of Blackhawks crossing the morning sky and the vision of the bombed-out shells of several previous Iraqi palaces and the team of coalition forces speaking jovially in a melodic Korean behind me, I would just as easily could have been in Columbia, Maryland. And that's actually a really sad sentiment. So anyway, so again, this section is labeled secret, and it says a day of firsts. I do not have a long history of TDYs to war zones. In fact, prior to 36 hours ago, the most hostile ground my feet had trod was the third world side streets of Cancun, Mexico. And yet, in the course of a few months, the NSA Deployment Services team had coordinated training and education that resulted in my preparation for participation in a TDY to the Iraqi theater and with MG Quirk and a team of SID seniors. And to top it all off, in the course of less than 24 hours, I flew in my first military aircraft, a C-130 flight from Doha, Qatar, to Baghdad, Iraq. I took my first flight with the rotary wing aircraft, which was a Black Hawk flight from Camp Victory to the Baghdad International Zone. I stepped foot on a military camp in a war zone, which was Camp Victory, Camp Slayer. And I talked with a U.S. ambassador, which is Ambassador Jeffrey. I met with the CIA chief of station, COS Baghdad, and I was briefed by tactical collectors at 4th Brigade, 3rd ID at the No Heads Palace, who were completely enthralled by the capability of the One Roof system provided them. So all in all, not a bad 24 hours. And then it goes into some unclassified sections that read, Baghdad, more than just a dot on the media map. Skirting over the streets, parks, homes, and businesses of Baghdad this morning, I became strikingly aware of a fact not well represented on TV, which is that Baghdad is a city. It is full of people. By far, the vast majority of these people are not our enemies. I saw people driving to work, kids playing on the streets, plastic lawn furniture on back porches, not so different than an overflight of any major city would reveal. Driving from presidential palace to presidential palace, many of them now becoming overrun and overgrown due to the lack of care and nurture. One can only imagine the splendor of what this city may have looked like only a few years ago, and more importantly, what this city could look like in just a few years as democratic reform and the resultant national pride are realized in the beautification of this city. That's really a sickening passage. But it continues unclassified, saying SIGINT excellence and professionalism in the Iraq theater. If you've ever wondered if our SIGINT contributors are making any difference in the campaign in Iraq, stop wondering. From combatant commanders to US ambassadors to CIA chiefs of station, the message is remarkably consistent and unquestionably complementary. Quotes like the following became remarkably routine as we traveled around and met with in-theater SIGINT customers. So, and the dot points from these customers was, your service is unparalleled, truly phenomenal, dedicated people who truly make a difference, etc., etc. All this compliments, overwhelming coverage, my single greatest source of intelligence. Yours is a free-thinking organization. We get nothing but enthusiasm and support. Your intelligence is timely and accurate. We seldom get surprised. The NSA and Cryptologic Support Group, or CSG, in Baghdad Daily Read is the best intelligence document that we receive. The document is readable and concise, spot on.
Another secret passage says, as we visited with engineers, analysts, linguists, and collectors, it became clear that the common denominator amongst all of them is that they are a dedicated, highly trained, and extremely motivated workforce. Their love of mission, their expectation that their efforts will translate directly into a safe, stable, transformed Iraq are the key factors in their extremely successful drive for excellence. So my takeaway from this document is that other than, reprinting these compliments that the SIGINT, the NSA SIGINT got from their customers, this is also giving us that really sad image again of Baghdad having been destroyed, and then this false hope of Baghdad then being rebuilt in the future. And of course, with the, dollop of democracy thrown on top of all that. And, we know from hindsight at this point that that's absolutely not what was going to happen. The, quote, beautification of this city was not something that was going to be a realistic outlook. And I'm going to stop sharing 1 second as I check chat, see how things are going with all of you and how we're doing. Oh, great. We have 24 people now. Fantastic. Yeah, hi, Mr. Spinks, hi, Fly, hi, Crockatoo, hi, everyone. Sorry, this has been such a confusing start. Yeah, it's just been a kind of interesting day, but I'm just glad that we're having the stream at all, because we really could have just canceled the whole thing because of the way that this day has turned out, but we haven't. We're here, and so we'll make it work. So, yeah, so Sogrid says, is this person being facetious about the rebuilding, or were they just naive? I think it's an example of propaganda. I think that they... whether they believed it or not, I can't tell what any author believes when they write something, but the way that they wrote it sort of suggests that that was at least the propaganda line that they were using at the time. And yes, Crockatoo, I see you. I'm going to give you a spanner right now. Okay. That you should have a wrench now, Crockatoo. But yeah, so I think that they were basically following the general line of the time, which was that democracy is going to change Iraq for the better. And, oh, look, we're going to nation build, and all of those kind of myths that we saw spread around in the media at that point are obviously in full swing in this document. Other than that, I don't see anything particularly interesting, because it's not telling us who the SIGINT customers are. It's not telling us what projects they were working on. It's just telling us that they had a lot of compliments on them. And again, like I said, that same kind of line that we're being fed in these documents themselves at the time in 2005, when they really should have known that this was not going to go well. I think this is a couple of years into this whole endeavor, and I think by that time it really is not going well, but they're still trying to put this face on it like, oh yeah, well, despite all these bombed out buildings that I'm looking at, of course, in my fantasy, then this is going to look better in a couple of years. So yeah. And hi, everyone that's saying hi. I appreciate you all making your way over to this link. I hope that we won't have to host Decipher You on Disobedient Media's channel ever again, because I hope that we'll be able to get this sorted out for next time if we ever have a problem. But I really am glad that you guys made it over. So I appreciate it, and I'll just get back to the next document. So let's see what we have. We're going on to 141, which was MGQ's Notes from the Field Part 2. And I think the Part 1 was pretty interesting last time. Let me check that I've got the number right. Yeah, 141, MGQ's Notes from the Field, and I will start sharing in just a moment. It always takes me much longer to get the sharing set up than Susie ever does. Anyway, so Part 2 of MGQ's Notes from the Field, and it's from MG Richard Quirk, USA, who is the SIGINT director. It's in April 2005, and he says, hello again from Baghdad. The SIGINT leadership team has seen and heard a great deal over the past 48 hours, and I'm going to have to focus today's letter on the organizations and missions we have been exposed to thus far on this Friday morning. And then it goes to a number of paragraphs labeled secret. And it says, in a wartime situation, conditions tend to change very rapidly. And it is important to constantly reconfirm or redefine our missions. On this trip, we are finding a U.S. effort embroiled in change. See, and this is interesting to me, because here I feel like we're going to get the first recognition that this whole Iraq endeavor is not going the way that it had been intended to go. So yesterday we visited the two new major commands in Iraq, the Multinational Force, Iraq MNF-1, or MNFI, sorry, and the Multinational Corps Iraq, which is MNCI. MNF-1 under the, or I keep messing that up, whatever, under the command of General George Casey is focusing on the establishment of elements of the Iraqi government, especially its security and military institutions. I think that's interesting. So the next, another secret paragraph states, it is an enormous job that is rooted in selecting, vetting, and training the right people from the Iraqi population to lead the country towards a free, democratic, and prosperous future. These are exceptionally difficult tasks for a people brought up within a despotic and oppressive regime. And that's an interesting line too, because I feel like that's basically saying that if this whole experiment fails, then it's the Iraqi people's fault because they aren't used to freedom. Like they're kind of somehow allergic to democracy, and that's their fault, you know? So anyway, continuing, it says SIGINT can and must assist MNFI in identifying emerging leaders suitable for the governing and defense of a free country that respects the rights of its citizens and those of its neighbors. We will also have to separate the good actors from the bad in practice as we watch them execute their duties in this government. And that's very interesting as well, because it says that SIGINT is going to assist this group to identify emerging leaders that are suitable for governing. So to that extent, doesn't that sort of undermine the entire narrative of bringing democracy to Iraq if the Americans are simply going to install the leaders that they like? I mean, this is sounding like a violent version of any CIA coup or other instance where the US has removed leaders and overturned regimes and then just installed a US-friendly person. So if you guys completely disagree, then let me know in the chat. I'll read what your comments as soon as I get done reading this to you guys. So MNFI is also charged with the current security of the country. BGP, which is John DeFreitas, the senior intelligence officer, is focusing much of his effort and that of the Combined Intelligence Operations Center on identifying, tracking, and defeating the insurgents, former regime elements, FRE, and other internal and external entities that continue to threaten our U.S. forces, Iraqi citizens, and the developing Iraqi nation state in the long term, as well as now. Much of our focus across the SIGINT system will have to remain on the internal threat for now, but increasingly we must refocus on external relationships and the vetting of internal leaders of the future. So I think it's really interesting that they're talking about vetting the leaders of Iraq. I mean, that absolutely runs counter to everything that we would imagine that would characterize democracy as far as I understand it. So yeah, continuing on, the largest element of MNFI is MNCI, commanded by Lieutenant General John Vines, whose newly arrived XVIII Airborne Corps headquarters serves as its leadership element. MNCI also includes the 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force, 3rd Infantry Division, 42nd Infantry Division, Task Force Freedom, the Stryker Brigade or 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment Task Force, and our coalition partner units. Its mission is to conduct military operations to secure Iraq sufficiently to permit MNFI and other elements of the U.S. government and the coalition to assist in the stand-up of the Iraqi government. That's an odd word to use, in the stand-up of the Iraqi government. The MNCI forces are distributed across much of Iraq and are reducing the threat of insurgency and the intimidation to levels that the newly established Iraqi security forces can manage. In fact, they are gradually turning this mission over to the Iraqi security forces. Our cryptologic missions in this regard were aimed at detecting and targeting elements of the opposing forces in country and assisting in protecting our forces, which are still sustaining casualties from enemy action. And again, these following paragraphs look like they are labeled secret. And they say, in the realm of force protection, the #1 killer of U.S. and coalition troops in the improvised improvised explosive device, or IED. And I think that was a typo, and it meant to read is. So the #1 killer of U.S. and coalition troops is the improvised explosive device, or IED. We need to be sure that SIGINT is doing what it can to counter the IED threat as part of the interagency team working with the IED problem. In the business of detecting opposing forces in country, our cryptologic mission continues to focus on identifying, tracking, and targeting these insurgent and FRE elements so that MNCI forces can take these threats off the street. It became very clear today that the overwhelming priority in this regard is AMZ, or Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. I will discuss his importance to the operations tomorrow. Suffice it to say that his removal as a threat is the vital next step in building confidence in the citizenry and making the streets safer for all. And then again, it's secret. And it says, it will also become more important over time to ensure that we are doing all we can to support the coalition aspect of these operations. For example, this morning, I met the commander of the South Korean forces in Iraq, stationed in Erbil. He has a Korean tactical SIGINT unit supporting his operation, but they have had virtually no contact with our efforts. We will have an opportunity and a challenge here to develop better teamwork across all of the deployed tactical SIGINT units, such as those of the Koreans. We are building the center ICE communications network specifically to supply that type of tactical SIGINT coalition on the ground. And over time, this kind of mutual support will have to extend as well to the Iraqi SIGINT element, ISE, if SIGINT is to help build stability in the country. We will want to imbue the ISE with all of the skills and ethics that should be demanded of a SIGINT service in a democratic nation, especially one under internal and external threat. If we are to develop a lasting partnership with Iraq, we will need to assist in the training of that service and open the doors of sharing fairly early in its development. Otherwise, the country will be forced to seek other partners, some of which might not favor democratic development. The clock is ticking on this relationship, even though establishing it is filled with challenges. In a broader sense, we will have to open dissemination of SIGINT, in Iraq, much more widely in the future. As the MNFI and the ambassador continue to increase the role of Iraqi security forces in conducting operations, they will have become much more dependent on, sorry, I'm losing my place because this is a lot smaller on this version of Zoom than when Susie shares it. And she and I have noticed that before, that when she would share screen, it would be magnified a lot larger. And then when I share screen, it's really tiny. So it's easy for me to lose my place. So, but I'll just try and find it again. In a broader sense, as the MNFI and the ambassador continue to increase the role of Iraqi security forces in conducting operations, they will become much more dependent on good intelligence, and we'll have to aggressively identify opportunities to provide them the intelligence they will need to successfully execute those operations that we would have previously had to conduct. Tomorrow, I plan to continue providing you with a sense of the needs of our very senior partners over here. Meanwhile, today, you will probably see additional articles from other members of the team. And everywhere we went today, the most consistent theme was profound gratitude of each of our customers and partners for your extraordinary accomplishments. This was not patronizing chatter. People over here do not have time for small talk or feel-good remarks. Too many lives hang in the balance, and the folks here know all too well their responsibility to win this conflict quickly and to protect lives. No, these continue to be heartfelt thanks from very knowledgeable teammates. It has already been a great pleasure to receive the thanks that have truly been meant for all of you. And then a unclassified paragraph says, I guess my last remark is to note that this day has been a special pleasure because of all of the totally professional personnel we have met already on the trip. There have been too many to mention, but certainly redacted. And, he's listing a lot of names that are obviously redacted for good reason. And then it says, keep up the great work, MGQ. And that is the end of that document. But wow, there's a lot going on in this, and I would definitely want to add it to the Etherpad. I think that if any of you, Fly or Cockatoo, if you guys have the Etherpad around, could you please add this, and I will throw it into chat as well. And as I do that, I'm going to stop share and I'm going to check out what you guys are saying in chat. So here is the link to that particular document. If anybody has time to put that in the Etherpad, that would be fantastic. I'm just scrolling through some of your comments. Yeah, independent, allergic to democracy bombs. Yeah, I think that document was really interesting in the sense of, I think that document is the first one that I've read in this entire experience working with Susie on these documents where you kind of see them almost admitting that there is a problem, or you get a sense that they understand that this is going to be a lot more difficult than they had imagined. And I say that because of basically the phrasing that he used in that document was very much like not saying, oh yeah, we're going to get out in 2 weeks. It was kind of like admitting that if they didn't do things correctly in their minds, then there would be leaders that could be elected, or could be partners that Iraqi intelligence forces would choose that would not be as, quote, friendly to democracy as the US would be. So I thought that was an interesting phrase. I'm just reading through some of your comments as well. And Sogrid says, didn't they basically ban anyone involved in the Ba'ath Party from being part of the government? That then led to civil war. Pretty sure that's what the standoff is about. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on with this. I know that some people tried to make oh yeah, no, sorry, I'm just reading what Cockatoo said. But some people have tried to make this all about, sectarian conflict. But definitely, I think that the fact that the U.S. basically fired all of the infrastructure that had existed under the regime of Saddam Hussein, I think that really did impact Iraq in a very negative way, because these people had obviously, a lot of times military experience, and then they were out of a job. And yeah, I think that caused a lot of animosity there. Okay, I'm sorry. Matthew G says the audio is a bit choppy at times. Apologies for that. I have my microphone set all the way up. I mean, like, the gains is set all the way to full. So I don't know what else I can do about that, but I hope that it's at least, it's good enough that you guys can hear it at least somewhat. So I'm just going to check. Yeah, I'm just checking some comments. Yeah, and so I see that David, that Cockatoo, I believe, has the Etherpad. So if you could share that again a couple times for people that have been that have taken a few minutes to get here, that would be fantastic. It's really, really helpful if you guys can just take a couple of brief notes on stuff that we talk about. That, like, when I say, like, please put that in the Etherpad, if you could please do it, because usually when it's Susie and I both conducting Decipher You together, one of us can be reading or responding to you guys in chat, and then the other person, usually Susie, is taking like a couple of notes in the Etherpad on any documents that she finds important. So because it's just me, I can't actually take the time out to write down notes in the Etherpad unless you guys just want to watch me type. So if you could please, Cockatoo, Fly, and anyone else, can you please, 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 when we find an important document, just even if you just copy paste it into the Etherpad, if you could please just put it there for me, that would be fantastic, because I don't want to take the time to do that and just have like dead space as we do this. So, and thank you to everyone who's putting this on social media and getting the word out there that this is the link to the stream today. I really, really appreciate it. And for anybody who has come in the last 5 or 10 minutes as I've been reading and wondering why Susie isn't here, it's because she's very, very sick today. And so we wanted the stream to go on anyway. And so for that reason, I had to post this solo, and that's totally fine. It's better to have this continue than to just cancel it. So the only problem with that is that when I tried to stream this from Zoom, it would not let me use the correct account that we usually use. And so because of that, we're on Disobedient Media's account today, which totally messed everything up, because the stream link that we had prepared is not the link that we're using. So total apologies for the confusion, but we're going to get through this anyway. And so we actually started relatively on time, so that was a plus. But I will just get onto it to the next document, and if a ton more people come in after we get through this next document, I'll explain again. And just know that I'm not repeating myself, because I forgot that I had said it earlier. I'll be repeating myself for those who don't know and may have joined us in the meantime. So with all of that said, I'll get back to the next document. And before I actually do that, though, I want to just say that I think that was a very important document. I think that that Susie would have had more to say about that than I do. She has years and years of studying in this subject, longer than I have. And so while I can pick out a few points that I think are interesting, Susie has a much better contextual understanding of all of these documents. So I would be very interested to hear what she has to say about this. But I do think that this is important, because it's talking not only about basically the situation on the ground in a less optimistic tone, it's also talking specifically about this MNFI group and the fact that, and I thought it was very interesting, I'm going to share screen again while I explain this. I thought it was interesting that MNFI group was actually described by MG Quirk as going in and taking targets out. So basically the intelligence from SIGINT was being used to locate and track targets, but MNFI was going in and actually, taking, killing these people. So let me see. I'll just try and find that segment. That must not have been the phrasing that he used. One moment. And there's a whole lot of other interesting stuff here too about the way that they're wanting to develop this state. And even though their language is very much pro-democracy on the surface of it, the way that they're talking about controlling and constructing this quote-unquote democratic nation is very much to interfere in the way that it develops. So I think that that's very interesting that they're so clear about that. So I think it was a few paragraphs in that he talked about the fact that the SIGINT was doing what it could, etc., but the MNFI was the group that was taking people off of the streets. One second. Well, I'm probably just glancing right over it. Okay, there it is. So in the business of detecting opposing forces in country, a cryptologic mission continues to focus on identifying, tracking, and targeting these insurgent and FRE elements so that MNCI, not MNF, MNCI forces can take these threats off the street. So I thought that was interesting. That may not be news to some viewers and it may not be news to Susie. I don't know exactly, but to me, that's new. And to me, that's very, very interesting. It became clear today that the overwhelming priority in this regard is obviously Zarqawi, etc. And then they're talking about the importance of taking him out and like the importance of his removal. But yeah, I think that it's interesting that they're talking about this specific group that is being used to actually go in and take action against these people that they consider targets. Interesting. So, okay. I will go on to the next document, which is The Art of Sharing Insight and Continuity. And it's from Charles Berlin, who is the Assistant Deputy Director for Customer Relationships and S1. And the date is, again, April 2005. And it says, as you may know, MG Quirk and the crew are visiting our outstanding signatures and customers out in the field. As of the 2nd of April, we have visited Iraq and will move on to Afghanistan and Pakistan in the next few days. I'd like to share with you a key understanding we got from a customer engagement here in Iraq. And then it says that BG John DeFreitas is the senior military intelligence officer in Baghdad. We met with him in his headquarters located in one of Sudan's old palaces. It was quite a contrast to see the workman-like operations center set up in the ornately decorated marble halls of the Perfume Palace. After the usual briefing covering his mission and requirements, BG DeFreitas leaned back and gave us the good stuff. There is no substitute for meeting a customer face-to-face in his own space. So that's interesting that we now know that DeFreitas is actually not just a senior military intelligence officer, but is actually a customer of the NSA. So that puts a new spin on it as I'm reading through this. So, and then it says that he explained that his intelligence problem was very, very complex and constantly changing, and the operational paradigm is shifting from US-led to Iraqi-led. He readily admitted that he did not have a monopoly on understanding the situation or the way ahead. He implored us to consider a special kind of sharing, which he called insight. Our customers are learning to ask for more than sharing data. They want us to share our conclusions, our suspicions, and our hypotheses, our insight. Naturally, they want it labeled as such, but they are suspicious. Wait, sorry, I'm losing my place because of the small font. Naturally, they want us to share our conclusions, our suspicions. Naturally, they want it labeled as such, but they're expecting us to go beyond SIGINT. In fact, even beyond SIGINT assessments to predictive intelligence. Yes, BG DeFreitas knows we are a single int, but he is a sophisticated user of our service and has realized that the global SIGINT system is made up of thinking people, and he wants to mine that knowledge base. He is open to all thoughtful conclusions that you have. Don't just share data, share yourself. Find a way to do that in a chat session, in a VTC, a product report, or even a simple phone call. You can make a difference when you put your brain online. And then it says that continuity is a second concept that BG DeFreitas feels is critical to success. He told us that there is a lot of turnover here in the combat zone and even back home in CONUS. BG DeFreitas is concerned about the impact of a lack of continuity on his mission. Clearly, he appreciates that one of the things that the global SIGINT system brings to the fight is target depth and expertise. He wants to be assured that this important attribute does not atrophy or stumble. He's counting on it. What can you do to help assure continuity? Well, if you are working the Iraq problem, consider volunteering for a deployment out here to get close to the customer and the target. Capture what you know in a database, a report, or a pass-on book. And then participate in the various VTC chat rooms where the mission is being discussed. It's all right to look for a while, but eventually you will have to marshal your courage and put out an idea and let your peers review it and criticize it. It may be a bit painful at first, but you'll be happy when you see beyond the apparent criticism to see the value added that comes with the application of multiple brains to an idea. One impediment to sharing yourself encountered by the responsible analyst is the hesitancy to act for fear of being wrong. Our credibility is important to our brand, and we want our customers to know they can bet their lives on our products and services. But taken to the extreme, this can result in analysis paralysis, waiting for the 100% solution to appear. It never does, by the way. So one of our important customers is telling us he is ready to to hear our emerging thoughts, especially if they advance the state of discourse on the subject. If you have maintained continuity on the target, your insight will be important to share, even if it's at the 50% level. Get the discussion going with your analysis and keep it going with your insight. As the global SIGINT system transforms into a truly net-centric organism, we need to learn the behaviors that we humans need to exhibit in this new environment. We have been given a big hint in so many words from one of our most sophisticated and engaging customers that we must change from our transactional relationship where you send in your requirements and we'll send you some reports to an intimate relationship where we really talk, and in the talking come to a mutual conclusion. This way of behaving is intensely human, and it's more art than science. It's not the realm of fact alone. It is the realm of the meaning of the facts. So our customers need to know so much more than the what. They need to know the so what. Okay. So what did you guys think of that? Do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts from the earlier document? Hope K, you can make a difference when you put your brain online. And yeah, I'm not sure about what he meant exactly by that. Like, I know that he was talking about, obviously people giving their opinions and their quote insight, meaning their personal take. But it sounds like this is a step out from straight analysis. And yeah, I think that it's a very interesting line. Basically, it seems like they're complaining about people not giving enough of an opinion in their analysis. And I think that's interesting in and of itself. So I'm just scrolling up through some of your comments. Are these docs pre-McCain's surge? I would have to look. I believe they are. I'd have to go look at the exact date on the surge in order to know. If some of you want to go do that, please go look it up. Again, I'm sure Susie would know the date of the surge off by heart, but I will just share screen once more and go to the next document, which is MG's notes from the field, part 3. One second. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a bell going off where I am. It's like I guess it's the 7. Actually, the timing doesn't make sense for the normal. It's not at the top of the hour when it usually rings. Sorry, ADD. But okay, so MG Quirk's note from the field, part 3 from MG Richard Quirk, USA, who is the SIGINT director. So this is again in April 2005, and it says, it begins with an unclassified paragraph which states, "Hello from somewhere over the Arabian Peninsula. I'm writing this third installment to our trip report from the flight deck of a C-130 Hercules transport aircraft departing from Qatar on our way to Kabul, Afghanistan. We've completed our 4-day stay in Iraq, but I'll use today's letter to catch you up on what we learned there. You may remember that I left off with the missions and requirements of the ambassador and those of MNFI and MNCI. I'll continue in this vein today. Fortunately, I have a 6-hour flight ahead for doing some writing." And then we move on to a secret paragraph, which says, "On 1st of April, our team visited the British Brigadier Bob Kett, who is the MNFI Deputy C2. He deals daily and personally with Iraqi government leaders and is charged with standing up the Iraqi intelligence community. He loves our product. It provides him..." So this is interesting just right off the bat, because we're talking about yet another customer who is an individual who is this British Brigadier Bob Kett. So that's very interesting to me that we've had, in the last 2 documents, we've had 2 customers named. And I think for that reason, both of these documents do need to go into the Etherpad. And, even if you don't write anything along with it, if you could please link, if you just copy paste the links to these 2 documents into the Etherpad, that'd be fantastic. When I'm through reading this one, I will make sure to copy paste the link to this document and the one before it, because I don't think that I took the time to copy that one. So anyway, but continuing on with reading. So he loves our product. It provides him with great insight concerning the people he is working with. With his busy schedule, he finds summaries especially valuable. He is particularly interested in emerging personalities, in the transfer of national authorities in the larger state of the Sunni insurgency, and Sunni engagement in governmental bodies, in illicit activities moving through or connected with Syria, and in projections of what will happen in the future internally as the Shia assume control of Iraq. So that is an interesting line, especially, the mention of Syria, but also just the way that they're basically their take on this transfer of power, their take on this not only the transfer, but the developing politics within the Sunni and Shia communities. I think that's interesting. And so then we continue with another secret paragraph that says, "The charge d'affaires at the embassy in Baghdad spent a lot of time with us and was very forthcoming with his needs. The first 3 priorities on his list were, where is Zarqawi, where is Zarqawi, and where is Zarqawi? He believes very strongly that getting Zarqawi off the streets is the next logical coup for the campaign. Zarqawi and his Mayhem R Us henchmen wield a very significant psychological force over the people of Iraq. He has proven to all that he will not hesitate to brutalize Muslims and that he has no real regard for the Iraqis. Zarqawi and his band are 7th century guys. They won't be assured by progress." That's an interesting sentence. Anyway, "They must be taken off the streets. Removing him from play will build enormous confidence and hope in the populace of Iraq. The charge points out that the balance has shifted in our favor in recent weeks, and we, which is the force pushing towards democracy, are on a roll." See, I think that's interesting too, because it's kind of the opposite of the way that the situation was actually playing out. But anyway, so he continues, quote, "We are winning, but we haven't yet won. A bad conjunction of events could mess it up. Those events could include a bad government, e.g. with Barzani intentionally undermining democratic formations, the death of Sistani. Sistani is absolutely vital to stability. He always comes up with the right solutions and always manages to convince all the players to adopt his solutions." So that's interesting as well. "Internationally, the charge is satisfied with our coverage for the present, but points out that Syria is still a mystery to us. His goals here are to continue cracking down on the Syrians and to keep the Iranians where they are. He points also to the Mideast peace process as a big player." Just one second. "What happens there always has a major influence over the Middle East and specifically in progress in Iraq. So our efforts in the peace process matter." And then more secret information. So he says, "Back on the internal side, this time with the Kurds. He is very happy with our product on Talabni, but Karzani is opaque. So he says that understanding Barzani's position will be important, and he places enormous emphasis on the reconstruction of Iraq's infrastructure, especially the restoration of electricity and gasoline to the people. And that's something that Susie mentioned yesterday, was the fact that, while there was documents that we've read previously that were describing bringing Christmas back to Baghdad, the people in Iraq were unable to have basics of just subsistence living, like electricity and, availability of gasoline, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then but continuing with the document, it says, we are hours of electricity now, and further increases are vital for commerce, industry, and quality of life. He challenged all of us here, stating he had yet to see a report on insurgency intentions to attack electric or gasoline delivery infrastructure. Finally, he pointed to the importance of the upcoming vote to adopt the constitution. He is not so much concerned that Sunnis would vote it down, as that Sunnis would be intimidated to refrain from voting, and would like any indicators of such intimidation. As a parting remark, he and his political and military deputy praised our UN and diplomatic reporting. It has been extraordinarily valuable to the embassy in all of their dealings. They were also very complimentary of our hostage and kidnapping coverage, stating that our tippers were particularly vital. And then he says, I have focused down on a few leaders in this letter. Oh, that was my phone. Apologies. Wow, this evening has just been amazingly hectic. But continuing on. So we were at, he says that he's focused down on a few leaders in the letter because he says, I want all of you to see the dependency on and high regard for SIGINT that all key leaders here share. Everyone we have interviewed had the same detailed sense of what we do now and for what we might be doing in the future. They praise us not only for the quality of our product, but for our choice of targets, our direct and selfless support and other non-SIGINT actions, and most of all, for our SIGINT representatives, providing them face-to-face services out forward. Each and every leader spoke strongly for their particular NCR, CSG, and NIST and CST cryptologists. They asked that we continue to send them such fine people who have so easily become their trusted battle buddies. Finally, each and every leader we met asked in an almost sheepish way that we just try to do even more, pointing out that each increase in our efforts had meant more soldiers saved, more enemies defeated, and more rapid progress towards our goals. We must seek out ways to help more in the global war. That's interesting too. And I know that we've seen endless references to global network and the NSA's end of it, but to hear the phrase the global war, I mean, obviously that recalls George Bush's description of this global war on terrorism, but to see that in this document, I think, is still interesting, because he's not just referencing a conflict in Iraq, he's referencing this global conflict, and I think that that's interesting language. So each person we put to the task is like 100 riflemen on our front lines. I doubt that SIGINT has ever enjoyed a position of more importance or acceptance throughout such a large population of supported agencies as it now does. We must not shrink from this opportunity now. I once served alongside a regiment whose motto is "Who dares wins." That must be our motto as we aggressively meet and exceed the expectations of our operational partners in this global war on terrorism. So there's global, again, that's the exact phrase that George W. Bush used to describe this. So he's definitely echoing that. And it's not like breaking news that he used that phrase, but I still think it's interesting that at this point in 2005, when things are not going so well, he's making it part of this larger argument about this larger conflict. I think that's a way to justify what they're doing here, which, with hindsight, was an awful intervention. So I ask that each of you seek out a fellow cryptologist who has returned from this region and ask them about the importance of our contribution and the value of increasing our efforts. And at the very end, it's unclassified. He says, I'll leave you today with another unit motto, quote, keep up the fires. It's an end quote. It's the motto of an old artillery regiment. What we are doing today in our missions and around the world is providing fires support that is every bit as effective and important as artillery in history. So tonight, as our team flies on to Afghanistan, let me ask you to continue to pour it on. And it's signed MGQ, and that is the end of the document. I think that's an extremely important document, at least for me, in my understanding of what their outlook was of this continuing conflict as they were experiencing it. And it's interesting too, and I'm going to paste this now into chat as well as the document before it, so give me a second to do that. But I think it's really interesting to have them basically admitting that things aren't going so well, but specifically in doing so, they aren't saying, oh, this isn't how we expected it to go, but they are admitting that there is a continuing conflict. They're admitting that they have to increase resources to fight this insurgency and this resistance that they're getting within Iraq. This is not mission accomplished as they sort of were presenting it in 2003, and at the very beginning of this intervention. So I have the one we were just looking at is linked into chat, and if Fly or Crockatoo or someone would please copy that into the Etherpad, I would greatly appreciate it. While I go back and look at the previous, I'll get the previous notes from the field to you in chat in just a moment. Yeah, it just takes me a second to copy paste it. Here we are. I think all three of those, I think the notes from the field 1, 2, and 3 were all really important documents. And I'm sure that Susie will have a lot of additional thoughts on that. Or maybe she'll discount them and say that we knew all of what was said in those documents. But I think they were important because of the way that it gave us a heightened understanding of specifically the customers, which is something that I know Susie has been very, very focused on learning more about. Okay, yeah, the Fly, great to know. Sorry, I'm not checking the Etherpad, so I'm not seeing if you guys are doing that. I will do that. I'll open it in just a moment. But yeah, I think it's really fascinating that we got 2 names of individuals who were customers. So it's interesting to see that customers are not just entities like the Federal Reserve, and they're not just entities in the sense of other intelligence agencies or other branches of the military, like the Navy being a customer or etc. It's actually individuals within the military that can also be customers, and that's totally new to me. So I think that's a noteworthy find there, at least for me it is. And I'm just reading through your comments now in chat, and if you guys have any questions that come up, or if you spot something that you think is noteworthy that I'm not seeing, please throw it into chat, because I would love to discuss with you guys. And that's part of the best aspect to me of Decipher You, is that it's not just me sitting here droning on at you guys. It's this collaborative sense of learning together. And so I am learning from you guys just as much as you guys are learning from the documents and from my thoughts on it. I would really like to hear your thoughts on what we're reading through. And I will try my best to address comments on these documents as I see them. So I'm just scrolling up a bit. And I'm seeing all you wonderful people in chat discussing the various stuff earlier and saying hi to each other. That's wonderful. As Susie always says, it's really great to see you guys speaking to each other with such kindness. That's really awesome to see. So Susie Greer says Clinton must never be able to get into power in any way that includes his wife. Okay, you're talking about Bill Clinton. Okay, so Jill Stein must get into power. Okay, that a little bit off topic, but I mean, I don't entirely disagree with your sentiments in any way, so good to know. But so yeah, Harold Hedge says the guy we installed as governor in Iraq couldn't manage my local McDonald's. I don't know if I'd put it that extreme, but I did think it was interesting in a couple of the MG Quirk sections that we just read that he was naming who they liked and who they didn't like as far as putting individuals into power. They said that one guy was awful and they didn't want him in power, and then the other guy was amazing and solved all these problems. Okay, so okay, yeah, East Slider and Mr. K both point out that Who Dares Wins is an Aussie SAS slogan and motto. So that's hilarious. I did not know that. So that's interesting. So in that document, he was presenting that as an American slogan when it's actually an Australian SAS slogan. Interesting. So I'm just reading what you guys have said before I can kind of process and respond. Yeah, and Myanmar says, thank you for the platform. And thank you guys for joining us and collaborating with us. This has been a really, as I said, hectic day, but I'm really glad that we're having this stream anyway. And yeah, so if you guys don't have any other questions about those three sections from MG Quirk, I will just get right back into it and share screen and go to the next document. Okay, so we've done part 2 and part 3, and now it will be SID supports security in Rome, and I think that that will be really interesting. I'm just going over to share screen. Okay, so SID supports security in Rome, and it's unclassified, and it says it's from redacted at the Chief of Office of Multinational and Second Party Affairs, and it's again in April 2005, and it says the death of Pope John Paul II has precipitated a series of highly visible public events which will draw VIPs and millions of pilgrims from around the world, making Rome an inviting terrorist target for the next few days. Even if viewed only from the US point of view, the next few days will be a security nightmare as an unprecedented number of American VIPs will be in Vatican City for the funeral. The current president and 3 former presidents, all with their wives, the Secretary of State, the president's national security advisor, and a large congressional contingent. And then we go into some information labeled secret that says NSA will be providing SIGINT threat warning support, not only to the US Embassy and security officials in Rome, but also to our Italian SIGINT partners who are charged with providing support to the Italian security services, ultimately responsible for the safety of the events. NSA is long experienced in providing this type of support to US elements and our partners. What is relatively new in our experience is engaging all of our SIGINT partners to provide threat warning reporting to support multinational events. Similar to our experience during the 2004 Olympics, NSA has again engaged all of its foreign partners to forward threat during the 2004 Olympics. Wait a second, no, I was rereading the same line, apologies. So NSA has again engaged all of its foreign partners to forward threat warning reports to NSA, which will then be shared with US and Italian officials as appropriate. AS 234, which is telecommunications and network support to deployed operations, has put the finishing touches on software that will automatically pull partner reports related to this event and send them to the TERR desk in NSOC, which is the NSA's point of contact for further dissemination. Additionally, and this is labeled secret, the Center for Executive Protection, which is the CEP S2I044, has worked with Counterterrorism's Operations Services Branch to compile a comprehensive SIGINT support matrix, which serves as a platform for one-stop shopping for information on the organizations involved in the Rome Executive Protection Mission. The matrix includes information regarding target focus, operational comments and posture, and staffing and contact information, and is available on request from CEP or DLCEP1 or blank. So then it says that NSA, with the help of its foreign partners, is doing its best to ensure the somber events of the next few days and weeks will take place without incident. So I'm just going to scroll up through this and kind of take stock of whether I think it's particularly interesting. Yeah, I don't see anything particularly interesting. I think like as Susie said when we were looking at, let me just stop video 1 second. So I think that the way that Susie described the appropriateness of the NSA trying to protect the Olympics, I see this as relatively similar. I think trying to prevent any sort of terrorist attack or to have a defensive eye out on a massive event like the funeral of a pope, I think that's relatively okay. I don't see anything particularly groundbreaking in the description of their preparations to help, aid in security of that event. So unless you guys have seen something interesting in that, which if you have, please feel free to throw that into the chat. If you have any questions about that document, let me know. But I didn't personally see much of interest there. So I'm just reading your comments. Yeah, and I also have noticed that my lighting today has been very, very weird. So like at some points it looks very like almost solarized, like it's got my skin has gone like way too bright white, and I have no idea. Like, I haven't done anything different today, so apologies if the lighting goes off for a minute. That just started happening today for no reason. But I'm just reading your comments. So yeah, we're talking about ideologies and Macron. And I've been surprised. Actually not surprised. It's been interesting to watch France get progressively more angry at Macron. Yeah, that's a whole side tangent that I don't know that I want to get into right now. But yeah, so Crockety says Italy is an independent country and so is the Vatican. What business does NSA have there? Well, I don't know that they have any business there, but I think trying to aid in helping to secure that event, I don't see that. Like, for example, I believe, and let me go back to the document very fast and see if they were asked to help. Like, so if in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's only my opinion, if the Italian forces are asking, or the Italian government is asking them to help, then I don't see anything wrong in aiding in providing security. I see that as similar to providing security for a large event like the Olympics, where you have multiple nations, and usually the Olympics is not in the US. So, you know, in that case too, you could ask, what business does the NSA have policing an international event that's held by another country? And it would probably be answered by saying, if that country asks them for help, if the organization that's running the Olympics asks the NSA for help, then I don't see that as particularly awful. But I'm glancing through again to see if they were asked. So they just mentioned the death, and then they say, even if it's only seen through the US view, it will be a security nightmare. And then the large paragraph says that the NSA will be providing SIGINT warning support to not only the US Embassy and security officials in Rome, but also to our Italian SIGINT partners. So that, again, is this relationship that we see amongst the Five Eyes. This is not a Five Eyes partner, but it is one of these intelligence sharing partnerships that results in this type of arrangement where they are aiding Italy, whether that is a biased relationship in favor of the NSA. I think you could argue that it definitely is, but I think that that's how this is being arranged. So this isn't the NSA going behind the Italians' backs and providing security, over their heads. It seems to be an arranged situation. So yeah, and again, and I brought up the example of the Olympics and that being an okay time, and based on what Susie said, she said that she felt that the Olympics was an okay time to be defensively trying to look out for terrorism and prevent terrorism and all of that. That's actually one of the few times we've seen in these documents that she felt it was an appropriate use of the NSA's tools. Right. So in this particular document, what we're also seeing is a reference to the 2004 Olympics. So they literally say word for word, similar to our experience during the 2004 Olympics, NSA has again engaged all of its foreign partners to forward threat warning reporting to the NSA, which will then be shared with US and Italian officials as appropriate. So, and then it says that, telecommunications network support has put together the finishing touches on software that will automatically pull partner reports related to this event and send them to the TERR desk in NSOC, which is the NSA's point of contact for the dissemination. So it definitely looks biased. It absolutely looks biased to benefit the United States first. So it's filtering first through the NSA and through the US's offices, and then it's getting filtered down to the Italians. So it definitely sounds like basically inefficient, in my opinion, but it doesn't sound completely inappropriate either. So let me just open the next couple of documents. I'm also going to read through and see what you guys have said. Yeah, I see a couple of you calling Macron a deep state tool, which is fine. So yeah, I don't see a lot of comments on the Italian issue, so I'm going to continue onwards. And so we've been through SID support security in Rome just now, and so now we're going to move on to the SIGINT development conference in 2005, and I'm just going to open one more batch of documents before I get started. So don't mind me. Okay. So I have SIGINT Development Conference 2005, and I'm going to share screen just momentarily. Yeah, and I noticed that the lighting, as I said earlier, has been completely off this evening, and I have no idea why that is. It's just how it was when I entered the conference. So SIGINT Development Conference 2005 from SIGINT Development Unknown. And again, in April 2005, we've had a lot of documents in April and March 2005. We're starting with a classified segment that says SIGINT Development Strategy and Governance, SSG, is pleased to announce the 2005 SIGINT Development or SIGDev Conference. This annual event provides this opportunity for SIGDev experts from across the Five Eyes community to share discovery efforts and uncover potential solutions to the toughest SIGDev challenges. It is also a great opportunity to network with your colleagues and learn about the latest tools and techniques. As always, we'll be looking to identify the next steps needed to improve our worldwide collaboration efforts. This year's conference will be held during the week of 6 to 10 of June. Sorry, I can't even pronounce numbers, much less understand them. I have dyscalculia, so I literally stumble over numbers very, very badly, so forgive that. But 6 to 10 June here at NSA, all sessions will be held at the top secret or secret level. The theme of the 2005 SIGINT Development Conference is Converging Technologies and Discovering Solutions. The conference will open with a keynote address by Mr. William Black, Deputy Director of the NSA and CSS in the Friedman Auditorium at 900 on Monday, 6th of June, followed by a joint presentation by SIGDev leaders from NSA, DSD, CSE, GACHQ, and GCHB. So it's a Five Eyes gathering that we're looking at. But conference registration begins on the 25th of April. A volunteer sign up is now available online. We are currently accepting abstracts through 18th of April. Workshops this year will focus on discussions rather than PowerPoint presentations. We will also consider presentation topics outside the main threads, scheduling them as sidebar sessions throughout the week. The major threads of the conference are: number one, to ASR, building a globally distributed, coordinated Five Eyes SIGINT analysis capability. So that's a mouthful. So let's read that one more time. Building a globally distributed, coordinated Five Eyes SIGINT analysis capability. So we've read before a million times that they want to make a global network, that they want, that hated quote, that they want to make it, self-aware, self-synchronizing. But I think it's interesting that they're talking about a globally distributed, coordinated Five Eyes SIGINT analysis capability. I think that's interesting. It's probably not groundbreaking at all in any way. We've seen global network a million times, but I still think that the analysis part of that is interesting. So the second point, innovative approaches to SIGINT development. And the next point is linking target to network to environment, connecting the dots. I think that's interesting. SIGINT development support to military operations and skills development collaboration, shaping the SIGINT development workforce. So most of this is not surprising to us. Like we've seen before, wanting to connect the dots and support of military operations, like that is not at all surprising. Skills development collaboration in shaping the development of the workforce is not surprising. And then it continues saying, visit the website at continuous updates will be made as new information is available. Please send an abstract of your proposed discussion to blah, blah, blah. And the conference is open to all fully cleared personnel and will be conducted at the top secret level. So mark your calendars and start making plans to attend. Contractors are welcome, but they must be currently performing SIGINT development work. Okay, so I don't think that that's something that that I would think needs to be recorded in the Etherpad. I think that that's, relatively mundane. And so I'll just move on to the next document, which is special events, special people, FBI, Washington Field Office. So I'll just share in a moment here. Actually, before I do, I'm going to check chat really fast and see what you guys have said, because I haven't been able to catch up with you all after that last document. I see you guys are still having the discussion about France and Le Pen and Macron. I always think it's amusing what tangents chat goes on as we're reading documents. It's kind of nice to see you guys having a discussion. So RSFO says there were 2 candidates. Yeah, okay, talking about Macron and Le Pen. Okay, I'll get back to the document and see if we find anything interesting this time. So, special events, special people, FBI Washington Field Office from blank, SID representative to WFO, Customer Account Management Division, S112. And again, April 2005. And it says a career SIGINTer learns what it's like in the law enforcement world. Interesting. So it says, last July, I left the familiarity of NSAW and accepted a job at SID External Representative, or SID Rep. I am now at the FBI Washington Field Office, or WFO, and still feeling culture shock as a result of my transition from the SIGINT world to the law enforcement world, not to mention the switch from driving to Fort Meade to now taking the Washington Metro into DC every morning. As a SID rep, I provide basic services to my FBI customers, forwarding NSA product and assisting them with drafting information needs requests for NSA response. So, right off the bat, what the situation that we're looking at in this document is that this is an NSA SID individual who is going to work within the FBI, and that is another example of the interagency mechanisms and not just a revolving door, but the way that members from each agency will go and serve in other agencies in order to help in whatever way that the NSA or SID is specialized in doing so. So basically what we found over and over and over again in these documents is that instead of the CIA or FBI or other agencies developing their own version of SID or the NSA functions, they just have the NSA representative come in and do the work for them within the agency. And so that's been important in the sense of because we've seen this repeatedly, it really counters this idea of the agencies competing at the same tasks. So, but continuing on. So, however, I will also get involved in much, much more, including requests for technical support. So that sounds like they're being the FBI's IT guy and coordinating and analyst exchanges, encouraging WFO use of Interlink, and in general, educating FBI agents and analysts about what NSA can do for them to fill in the foreign intelligence pieces to their case puzzles. Now, that's interesting. I wasn't warned that I'd need to learn a new language. Bureau speak includes such terms as CTOC, SAC, ASAC, pocket litter, EC, and pony, not the animal. At the same time, I am introducing agents and analysts to NSA speak as I help them understand what NSA can do for them, even with our different cultures, missions, and authorities. So again, I think that this document is interesting because it's really going into detail about this interagency complementary work as opposed to competing work. So we've got an unclassified, it looks like most of this is unclassified, and it says, recently I was part of the NSA team, which supported 2 national special security events, NSSEs, which included the presidential inauguration and the presidential State of the Union address. NSSEs require extensive preparation on the part of the entire intelligence community. So concept of operations, or CONOPS, intelligence needs requirements, and threat assessments all need to be documented to give a clear understanding of the mission and responsibilities of all parties involved. With that foundation in place, all of us NSSE players could work our positions, albeit for long hours, at a heightened alert status, assured that we knew with whom to coordinate vital information. So how and with whom to coordinate vital information. And I see chat ticking along, so I'm just literally changing tab on my end to see what you guys are saying really fast. Still talking about Macron. I want to be able to respond to you all if you have a comment about the document as I'm reading, because I really do encourage you guys as I'm reading these documents to contribute your own thoughts and chat about them. If you spot something that I miss, I would love to hear your thoughts on it from these documents. And because I think that, as I said before, the collaboration between you guys as viewers and Susie and I as people that are reading these documents, I think that's the really magical ingredient in this. Is it's not just me and Susie like pre-recording a read through of these documents, you guys being there live with us is the amazing element and the unique element of this journalistic initiative. So with all that said, I'll just continue. So it says, for me, the best part of the NSSE experience was observing my new law enforcement colleagues in action. The FBI WFO's 24-hour Command and Tactical Operations Center, or CTOC, coordinated all investigative intelligence, counterterrorism, and crisis response activities. The center had representatives from Secret Service, law enforcement, and fire departments ready for action, and had access to other WFO resources if necessary, including a SWAT team, a hostage rescue team, an evidence response team, a hazardous material recovery team, and an aviation unit, to name a few. So that's quite a list. That's quite a mouthful there. So as would it be expected, most intelligence was coming from law enforcement agencies or the numerous FBI agents working the streets with reports of fires or protesters or suspicious vehicles. But NSA representatives throughout the intelligence community were poised and ready to provide any threat information that might come from its sources or to follow up on any leads provided by FBI. I know that FBI WFO was grateful for our support and was quite forthcoming with sharing their experiences from past inaugurations and State of the Union addresses. And then it says, I have worked in SID as an intelligence analyst on the SID oversight staff and as a manager in the collection arena. And along the way, we have had the pleasure of working with many dedicated and talented SIGINT professionals, my personal SIGINT heroes. At the FBI, my eyes have been opened to a whole new world of talented and dedicated law enforcement professionals armed with guns, handcuffs, Blackberries, and the highly valued intelligence from their intelligence community partner agencies. These men and women work long hours on counterterrorism, counterintelligence, espionage, and criminal cases, plus work the task force, which requires 24/7, which respond 24/7 to threat tips to ensure the physical safety of those who live within their jurisdictions. I have gained another set of heroes, law enforcement heroes. So I think this is, the smoke that's being blown in the direction of the FBI there, that's not that interesting to me. But what is interesting is this description of the complementary roles the NSA and a representative like themselves of the NSA within the FBI performs, and a description of these various events that they're obviously policing. Again, I think that the argument, I think this is another example, of presidential inaugurations and presidential State of the Union addresses where there is a legitimate need for security. So I think that this is probably the third document we've seen where we actually have a legitimate security, I wouldn't say threat, but a security is genuinely needed in these situations. And until this section of the SID Today documents that Susie and I have analyzed, this is something that has been very rare that we've seen, where we kind of go, oh yeah, well, that's legitimate. Like, that's really extremely rare. So for that reason, I think it's interesting. I'm going to throw the link to this in the chat just so that I can note, because I think it's a good example of, okay, yeah. And I see you, Fly. I will spanner you right now. I didn't know that you weren't. I apologize for that. We've just had everything so set up on Susie's account that we're having to sort of start over for one evening on this account. 1 second. So I just gave you a spanner, Fly. If there's anyone else that is in chat that is with us very regularly and you would like a spanner, please give a shout out. And Fly, if you could, if you have tweets that you've created, sharing this link to this stream, if you can throw that into chat so that people can share, that would be great. I'll try to retweet it myself as I'm going through. I don't really, because it's only one person, I don't have time to tweet this out myself, but we'll just keep going as we can. And again, I appreciate you all being here. So I'll get back to the next document that we're on. It will be right. There is no index of forbidden words. Okay, interesting. So it's from the redacted of the reporting board. And I just see another comment come up, so I need to go check. Okay. All good. So, like that notorious stump farm where a subterranean fire has smoldered for years, a long-standing debate rages unchecked regarding forbidden words in product reports. Occasionally it erupts, and both the reporting board and the reporting policy and guidance branch receive pleas to tell us exactly what we can and can't say. Many of our longtime reporters were taught in the SIGINT equivalent of kindergarten that using verbs like said, told, etc., revealed that the source of the intelligence was SIGINT, or more specifically, comment. Some officers used to maintain lists of such forbidden words, but these lists were applicable only to those work centers. They were not binding on the entire analytic workforce, nor were they maintained or endorsed by policy organizations. That was then, and this is now. Our senior leadership has repeatedly said, we have gone from a need-to-know culture to a need-to-share one. More and more, as with the WTR exemption issue, we rely on the individual reporting officer's familiarity with their sources and their customers to weigh the strength of the particular customer's need to know, whether the intelligence facts can be adequately understood and assessed without those details. And of course, there are words and classes of words to avoid in sanitizations, but they do not exist as the above-mentioned lists of forbidden words. Rather, instructions on how to write so as to protect sources can be found on the reporting page. So that's interesting that these rules of forbidden words are specifically to protect sources. So that's interesting. And then we move from a classified segment of writing to a secret section, which says, as for the SI portion of a report, that content is for SI cleared customers who presumably should know at least that the information is derived from communications intercepts, even if they don't know how or where the info is actually obtained. Policy doesn't expressly prohibit communication words like contacted, instructed, notified, issued orders to, and the like in the SI sections, since such words merely indicate the fact that communications took place, not whether the communications consist of voice intercepts, faxes, emails, teleprinter messages, or even good old HF manual Morse. Whether to go so far as to indicate means and or mode in the SI portions of a product is still a judgment call, which should be based on the careful risk versus gain assessment described above. Reporters should consult all available expertise in their product line, from the experienced senior reporters to the URS Centers for Guidance. And that is the end of that document. I think it's new to me, so I don't know if it's interesting or not. I don't know if it's noteworthy particularly, but for me, it's new, and in the sense that it is describing this list of banned words that are banned so that they protect sources, and so that they don't give away who told what and how, in what way. So I think that that's interesting, but not something that I would probably feel the need to report on. But it's just interesting in the sense of growing my contextual understanding of how this is all kind of set up. So that is the end of that document. I'll just try and get through a few more. We're heading towards about an hour and a half pretty soon. So I'll try and get through a couple more, and then I'll call it an evening. And I know that I think Susie would love to be able to read these with us. So I will try to not go through too many without her, so that she then doesn't feel the need to come back and redo the analysis herself. So having the SIGINT time of my life, and it looks like a very, very relatively short piece from SMS or SM Sergeant blank from SNCOIC, Cryptologic Services Group Bagram. And again, we are still in April 2005, and it says what it's like to work as an NSA representative in Afghanistan. And I'm just going to flip to chat very quickly to see if you guys have said anything. Okay, and Susie Greer says, thank you, good night. It's very late. I totally understand, Susie. I will be wrapping up here relatively soon. I'm going to just get through a couple more documents and then call it a night myself. And thank you, Matthew, and thank you everyone that's still here. As I said, I'll just get through a couple more and then I'll call it an evening. So, unclassified, on Wednesday, 30th of March, 2005, First Lady Laura Bush made a trip to Afghanistan to help celebrate and foster the advancement for women in Afghanistan. I was extremely fortunate to be part of the VIP escort team that would assist the First Lady and other cabinet officials and staff officers when they arrived to Bagram Air Force Base for a special celebration dinner. During the dinner, Miss Connie Duckworth, First Lady Laura Bush's staff officer for Afghanistan Women's Affairs, asked me a question on how I was enjoying my time here at Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan. My answer came without hesitation, saying I have never in my entire life felt so honored to be an American, so proud to be in the military. And ma'am, the work of the United States military, along with our coalition partners, is making America safer in capital letters. Truly, ma'am, I'm having the time of my life. And I think that this document is shaping up to be one where I'm going to feel like vomiting as I read through it. So it says that First Lady Laura Bush and Sergeant Blank stationed at Bagram during a celebration dinner held at Bagram Air Force Base in Afghanistan, says, I'm a 40-year-old senior master sergeant with 18 plus years in the service. I am the single parent of twin 6-year-old girls, blank and blank, who are my entire world. So what am I doing in Afghanistan? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm fighting a SIGINT war in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, again in capital letters, where 80% of the actionable intelligence for CJTF 76 forces comes straight out of the cryptologic support groups, or CSG. When CJTF 76 actions a target, they head straight to the CSG and ask for information that almost always is the deciding factor on whether or not a target is actioned, and CSG analysts are Johnny on the spot every time. So my OIC, or officer in charge, Army Major Eric Toller, and I comment to one another on a daily basis how tremendous this experience is and how incredibly exciting our mission. Our daily saying to each other, "Isn't it awesome to be relevant?" That's interesting. Interesting phrase. So I truly had no idea how this opportunity to serve in the SIGINT enterprise was going to manifest itself in a CSG. So I kept my eyes wide open. Within hours of touching ground at Bagram, I was in the office meeting my troops and learning the mission. And I quickly found out I was in the ride for my life. Over the course of several days and subsequent weeks, I was involved with a myriad of real-time situations where most of the INTs, which include HUMINT, IMINT, MASSINT, SIGINT, were brought to bear on capturing or killing substantiated bad guys. But what was most striking was no matter what INT they had on a target, the decision makers almost always held out for SIGINT corroboration before giving the go-ahead to action a target. And obviously by action they mean to kill somebody. So it's interesting to me that they've euphemized it so much that it doesn't sound anything like what they're referring to. Like, it's not just like, even to say to take out a target or to move on a target still implies an action that you're doing. Like, instead of just saying it's an action, it's obviously something that you are doing to someone else. And when they say to action a target, it just sounds like, that doesn't sound like anything. It makes absolutely no sense. But anyway, sorry, that's just my English lit background speaking. But yes, so for the first time in this old SIGINTer's life, did I really grasp the impact SIGINT had on theater operations. So basically what she's saying there is that SIGINT was responsible for the corroboration of intelligence that was then used to kill people. And as Susie's discussed before, obviously, the NSA is involved in the deaths of or is responsible for the deaths of many, many people through their intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, but on with what this document has to say. CSG Bagram has benefited immensely from the OIC Major Toller. Major Toller is an Army tactical guy with a tremendous wealth of SIGINT experience, thus has a unique ability to facilitate national level SIGINT assets to the forward-most tactical elements located at forward operating bases, FOBs. Another one of his talents is securing transportation on rotary wing aircraft and the Office of Target Reconnaissance and Survey, or OTRs, were one of many beneficiaries of Major Toller's connections with flight operations. Interesting. I'm seeing you guys leave comments, so I'm going to switch over to seeing what you guys have to say. Yeah, Mr. K says that Hillary Clinton also referred to war as action in her article. And I think we have, that is a word that we use to represent a conflict, like lost in action. It's like lost in conflict, lost in war. And so I think it's interesting, though, that instead of even saying like to take action on the person, they're actioning them. It's a weird way to use that word, even though it is used in the place of conflict and war. And it does represent that. To just say to action somebody is very bizarre to me. It's the first time I've seen that in the documents that I recall. So I'm just seeing what the rest of you guys have been saying. Yeah. Okay, so last section of this document, which is labeled top secret, says on March 21st of March 2005, I had the great privilege of deploying forward with the OTRS team to FOB Lawara, renamed Camp Tillman, located on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border in the province of Paktika. On this mission, OTRS personnel were responsible for the installation of collection leave-behind assets that directly support forward SIGINT teams by providing collection capability for VHF and UHF signals in denied access terrain. For this mission, our objective was to install 3 systems and recover 1. One of these systems was to be installed was on the top of mountain range, approximately 8,100 feet above sea level and an estimated 1,200 meters from the Pakistan border. And I think just as somebody who has grown up in Australia, which uses the metric system, and then America, which uses its own bizarre system of measurement, it's kind of amusing to me to see them refer to 8,100 feet and then in the same sentence an estimated 1,200 meters, because that's using 2 different systems of measurement. So anyway, nerd, point of interest anyway. So the 8,100 feet above sea level and an estimated 1,200 meters from the Pakistan border and a host of nefarious miscreants. The installation of the system was critical to the FOB SIGINT team because it denied anti-coalition militants, or AMCs, unrestricted access to a tactically advantageous ridge used as a staging location to rocket and mortar coalition forces. The mission was a complete success as the OTRS system installed provided 82 Klieg lights. So I think that I don't know if Susie would find anything noteworthy here. I have no clue, or if she would just think it was old news. But I think it's interesting because we're shifting from Iraq, which we looked at in that section of information from NG Quirk. We're now shifting over to Afghanistan. And it's interesting to me, not so much that they use different systems of measurement, that's not a big deal, but it's interesting to me that she's talking about First Lady Laura Bush in this way, and she's still using those slogans, but they're like in capital letters and all bolded in italics. I'm having the time of my life, because I read that as basically kind of an indication that things aren't going so well, because I feel like the more not ridiculous, but the more overtly they try to put this positive spin on things, the more almost hysterical it sounds. So that's my general like emotional reading of the tone there. I'm not sure if some of the more detailed information regarding the systems they were using. So for example, the VHF and UHF signals, I don't know if that would be something that Susie would see any interest in, but I will leave that to her to listen to this and add her thoughts when she writes her findings on this stuff. I will read through one more document and then I will call it an evening. So this one is titled SIGDEV Brown Bag Presentation, the AppStar Tool. And this may be very short, I'm not sure. It looks relatively short. And it's from SIGINT Development Strategy and Governance and unknown on still in April 2005. And it says, what Brown Bag with blank targets Trends Technology Center offered in 3 separate sessions. So this is obviously an event that they're giving us an insight into, like they're advertising to the NSA workforce that this is going to be an event that's going to happen. Yeah, Fly is giving us vomit emojis. I completely agree, Fly. The tone of that last document was definitely not enjoyable to have to read through. But just getting back into this one. So we've got the AppStar, which stands for Advanced Processing System for Target Technology Trends Analysis and Research. That is a mouthful of an acronym. So obviously it's an advanced processing system for the target technology trends analysis and research. I mean, that is a very wide umbrella. So it's on the 20th of April 2005. It's they're talking about the time and the location of these classes. So like literally it's in like classroom number or whatever. And then it says where at the conference room 2B3104, advanced registration is required, etc. Okay, so we're moving on to see that it says development strategy and governance is pleased to announce another brown bag discussion focused on SIGINT development topics of interest. We believe these sessions will be of interest to those who are working in SIGINT development or who are interested in learning more about NSA's SIGINT development activities. And then we move on from an unclassified bit of information to a secret information, which says redacted will be discussing the automated system, AppStar, being developed for the exploitation of open source information. Below is a brief description of his planned presentation. And it says, it's secret. And it says the T3C's Tools Division is researching and prototyping tools for automating data harvesting, entity relationship extraction, machine translation, and knowledge discovery. This system will allow multiple means of query and provide novel methods of data presentation and visualization. Among the advanced methods being implemented are semantic technologies and the use of ontologies for data modeling. The AppStar system will eventually be available enterprise-wide on the NSA classified desktop. Come learn about what we're developing and see if there's something to benefit you. I guess there is. And then it moves back into unclassified territory, and it says to register on one of the sessions, military and civilian employees can call blank or send an email to blank. Please include the CRSK 1500 class number, your social security number, and session preference. If you're a contractor, please contact blank, blank, blank. In order to attend these sessions, you must have approval from your COR. NCS course credit is now being awarded for attending these brown bag sessions. Please be sure to sign in on the day of the event, etc., etc. And the session itself is going to be classified at top secret. So very interesting. I think that Susie would have a lot better insight into this particular one than I would, but I think that this is noteworthy because, again, this is new to me in the sense that I haven't seen them discuss this type of system before, where they're developing this type of, like, as it says, like machine translation. We've seen automated data harvesting before, but I don't think we've seen like the phrase machine translation. This system will allow multiple means of query, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just trying to kind of wrap my mind around this giant umbrella within this acronym. So among the advanced methods being implemented are semantic technologies and the use of ontologies. So basically, it sounds like they're trying to almost automate their understanding of linguistics in order to understand their targets better, which makes sense. And I don't know if this is new to Susie or if it would be groundbreaking in her opinion. It's new to me, and it expands my understanding of the type of technology they were developing. But it's not something that, at this point, with my limited understanding tech-wise, it's not something that I would be able to report on. So I'd have to get Susie's input on that one. And let's see, it's 8:43. We've been going for a good hour and a half. And then, so this next one is going to be titled It's No Deception, nomination sought for D&D Awards, but I don't think we're going to go through that. Let me just see what number we've gotten up to. So that would be 150. Okay, so we got through 149. I think that's a great number to leave it on. So next week, we will be starting on document 150. I think that's a good place to end it. So if you guys have any other questions that you would like to ask about the documents that we've looked through, or anything else that was brought up during the stream, or, you know, if you came in halfway and you don't have no idea what was going on and you need me to explain why we're on Disobedient Media's channel streaming this evening, you know, fire away. I'll try to answer any questions before we close up shop for the evening. And other than that, so it's Thursday, and I don't know, I assume that most of you know that we are now doing Decipher for you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So today is Thursday. So tomorrow we will be here once again at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. And if you can look through, I'm sure that you'll be able to find the equivalent time. Just look for a time converter. So whatever time it is for you, when it's 7 p.m. at Central Standard Time, we'll be here again. So in that way, the reason we're doing that is we wanted to add a day to the week, but we didn't want to have it all spread out. And with everyone's, schedules kept in mind, we found that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was the best for Susie's schedule and for everyone else's. And it also gets Decipher You out of the way in a one chunk kind of segment of the week, as opposed to spreading it out. So thank you everyone for coming. I see Hope and Mr. Blister and Mayar. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name. I really apologize. We've got Patty McGuire and East Slider, and obviously Fly and Krakatu, and everyone that's joined us. I thank you all very, very much. And next time, unless if Susie is still ill, then I will be yes. Hi Sogrid, nice to see you. Good to see you all here. And thank you all for coming and participating. Even though we have had a lot of confusion this evening, I am very much hoping that Susie will feel better, and so that we can have the normal Decipher stream on her channel, and as we usually do. But if not, then we will be back here with Disobedient Media's channel. I will try to get that sorted out and decided on how we're going to do things early in the day, so that there's minimal confusion. We were just kind of caught on the last off guard with this situation, so it happens. But we got the stream done anyway. So without anything else to say, thank you all so much, and I will see you next time. Bye, everyone. If I can just figure out how to stop streaming, that would be fantastic. Bye.